for most of us, if we grew up middle class, we were taught to work hard, get good grades, get a good job, and then that was it. But that is what the middle class has. We're just supposed to work forever. That's why we're in the middle.
So Erin is a medical professional turned real estate investor. She co-owns over 2,000 units and has flipped and wholesaled more than 500 properties. She also educates others on building wealth through her YouTube channel, Ask Erin. So she is a rock star, and I'm so glad to have you on the show.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Chris and Jamie. You guys are amazing friends, and I always love hanging out with your audience because they usually are amazing people too.
Yeah, no, we love what y'all are doing too, both on the investing side, but also the education side, just showing folks how to build wealth and create financial freedom for themselves. And looks like, are you at a conference? Are you at the conference that Danny's at?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm at the
yeah,
same
yeah.
one.
We had so much travel coming up, so I wasn't able to make that one, but look forward to hearing how it is. Passive investing, what are the benefits that you're seeing? Maybe because you do certain passive investments yourself, and then also you work with passive investors in the projects you're in. So, and you
Right.
can flip both sides of those coins. But what are the benefits in of passive investing?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I really love talking about is this idea of wealth, right? So, a lot of the people that we end up working with have the same backgrounds as us. And not sure how much your audience relates, but I came from a middle class family, right? Maybe on the slight lower middle class side. In the Philippines, my dream was actually to make $5 an hour. Like that was my dream. And this was just 15 years ago. And so, as we've learned so much about wealth and growing it, one of the things that has really shifted the way I think about money and how we can grow wealth is this whole concept of passive income, right? I think for most of us, if we grew up middle class, we were taught to work hard, get good grades, get a good job, and then that was it, right? But that is what the middle class has. We're just supposed to work forever. That's why we're in the middle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we can't not work. But if you want to elevate yourself to becoming truly wealthy, you actually have to understand a different concept, and you almost have to break so much like subconscious beliefs in your mind about how you make money. And how you make money isn't just trading your time for money. You actually have to understand that at some point you have to take your money and make that money work for you.
Was there an
And
event, a moment, an event, a book, maybe a motivational
yeah,
speaker that broke that message through?
I think the very first time it kind of clicked was when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad
That's where
by
I was
Robert
going.
Kiyosaki.
For a lot of investors, that's certainly true for me.
Right, yeah. So if your listeners haven't read that book yet, definitely download it now, get it on Audible. It will change like the framework of your mind. And it's things aren't going to happen overnight, but like just planting that seed in your mind and just thinking about this difference of like, oh, I don't have to keep trading my time for money my whole life. That's the only way you're ever going to get time freedom, and that's the only way you're ever going to have true wealth. Because think about all the billionaires, 100 millionaires, decamillionaires. Like, you really think they're trading their time for money all the time? How are you going to get to $1 billion doing that? Like, you really can't. You need leverage. And the first thing you have to leverage is the money you do make, and making that make more money for you.
And it starts out with discipline, because it really doesn't take a lot to live a comfortable middle class life.
Right.
If you're even with a spouse netting close to or slightly over 100,000, I mean that's in most markets, maybe not San Francisco, but in most markets, it's a pretty good life. But getting some education on how to actually acquire passive assets that you can provide income passively that can grow exponentially over time has a remarkable effect over a 10-year period, 15-year period.
It is. Yeah. I started in just wanting to have financial freedom. I was 2014, so that was like what, 7 years ago now, and to now live it, right? To actually be able to say that I don't ever have to work anymore because my money works for me. Like that's crazy to do that in 7 years,
Yeah,
and that's
and
a
at your
reality.
age, but because
Right.
at your age too, because if you remember in Rich Dad Poor Dad, I think when Robert Kiyosaki was writing that, like he was much older than we are today.
Right.
And then I would imagine like most of the people coming to you for this type of education, rough average, what would you say like a mean or like an average of the age?
Probably mid 30s.
Hmm. Okay. But do you get folks that are coming to you, they're like in their 50s
Yeah, we
and
do.
and they're still looking for that. But a lot of them think like, man, I wish I would have did it then. But it doesn't take much. It does take action consistently,
It
right?
does. Yeah, yeah. One of our members, they actually started working with us like, last year, and then they're in their mid 50s and they just retired this year. So it doesn't have to take a whole long time. It depends from person to person, because most people who are in their 40s or 50s have something, right?
Hmm.
Whether it's equity in your home or maybe they bought a few rentals. And our whole philosophy is working smarter with your money, not necessarily working harder. Because to be honest, most of you guys watching are already working really, really hard, right? Like, but it's those little tweaks, right? Little changes in how you make your money work for you. Like one example we talk about with in our YouTube and Instagram stuff is like getting a lower interest loan on maybe your renter properties or like a line of credit on your home, and then finding really solid investments. Like the guest right before me was talking about some class A preferred returns that really in the multifamily space is very, very low risk. So it's almost the best chance you're going to get at that
Hmm.
9-10% return. So if you borrow at 3 and you make 10, look, make that spread at 7%. And if you do that over all of the lazy money, lazy equity you have in all of your properties and all of your bank accounts, right? Just imagine how much more passive income you can make.
And it makes even more sense now with inflation at 7+%.
Yes.
It's really a no brainer. Any one point, and then just any final comments you have. So you talked about that person got financial freedom in their mid 50s. In comparison to 65 or 70, they basically bought 15, maybe 20 years of their life
Right.
back. So you're never too old to start this. But any final thoughts on what folks should do as maybe first or second steps in taking that path from ground zero to at least maybe the education standpoint to understanding how they can become financially free?
Right. Yeah. Well, so there's really a short path, right? So, like, the first thing we have people do is just look at their financial picture, right? If you go on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ask Ariane, you'll see some other videos talking about this. But it's more about seeing where you are. I think some people just shy away from it sometimes and they don't see that, oh, I actually have this 100 grand I could invest with Chris, right? Like, just look at your financial picture and see where there's lazy money that you're not utilizing, and then start talking to the people you meet on these events. Talk to Chris, talk to Disrupt Equity from before, and start asking them how you can start getting involved. Because the beautiful thing about real estate is everyone's so open, right? Like,
Yeah, it's
so
a very
many
social business.
people, yeah, like people want to help. And there's so many people like us, like Chris, I know you too. Like, we came from backgrounds where we know where you guys are. Like, we were just in your shoes 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. So it's not that long. And we actually want to help people. So just reach out. Like, that's probably like the shortest thing I can say.
Love it, love it.